What's up everybody, I'm Matt.
And I'm Beth.
And today we're going to be reviewing the interior in the 2021 Audi Q5. So this is the mid-grade Premium Plus trim, and this one as tested goes for a very reasonable $53,000 or so for a mid-grade trim. So this is very representative of what you're going to see with an average Q5 on the lot and, you know, kind of how they look. And I think the Premium Plus package is a nice middle ground. So it gives you some stuff you really like the digital gauges here, the panoramic roof, and a few other things without going overboard and going up to that prestige trim, but it's not, you know, quite as sparsely equipped as the base model. And so it's a really nice interior. I think the one thing I'm really impressed with is how much Audi just nails a premium feeling interior. Now, you know, you do have some, you know, black plastic and stuff that's not quite as exciting as maybe what you see in like a Mercedes, which might look a little more plush, but I love all the switchgear. Everything feels so nice. Everything has a nice resistance, a nice feeling to it. Everything feels substantial. I really love this like brownish gray natural pour wood. Just looks great. And I don't know, like, this is an interior that maybe if you look at it, it's not going to blow you away like maybe the Mercedes or something would, but then whenever you sit in it and start using everything, I kept finding myself being more and more impressed. Every single button press, it just felt really nice.
Yeah, I think it's super high quality and I really like it. I love this open pour wood. It feels really nice, and it's also something that won't be scratched super easily either. Exactly.
Now we do have a little bit of black plastic here by the shifter, so that does attract some fingerprints and scratches there, but at least it's more limited and it's not like it's everywhere.
Right, but I kind of wish they could have put the wood there. I feel like there wouldn't be any reason not to have put it there.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they changed that up. That little area also isn't too great because like that's where my knee rests and it's nice and hard, which isn't great because there's some nice padding underneath of it, but unfortunately that's way too low for at least my legs to come in contact with it. So I wish there'd either be some softer material here or wood instead of that black plastic, but a minor nitpick. But everything else is very impressive here. They did some nice upgrades for 2021 too, with making some stuff standard and just kind of improving everything a little bit. But anyway, first for the basics, the seats here are really nice here in the Premium Plus version here. So this one has these black leather seats, but you can get several different interior color options, which is really nice that they let you have a decent amount of color options considering the exterior there's very few options. This one's the only color you can actually get, which is blue. Otherwise it's just whites, grays, silvers, and blacks, unless you want to pay $3,900 for an Audi exclusive color, and then you can get it in something a little bit more exciting. But so at least on the interior here you have some customization, but they're really just pretty soft, comfortable seats. They're maybe a tad bit firmer than some other competitors, but I found them to be super comfortable in my week of driving around here. They have lumbar adjustments and, you know, all the typical power adjustments, and yeah, just really great seats.
Yeah, and for the passenger, it's still really nice. It is, like he said, just a tad bit firm, but also one good thing about it is that you have all of the power controls where you can go up and down, front and back. Everything that you would want to do, you can do in this seat, so that's nice. Only thing you don't have is the lumbar support. So
yeah, and you even have here on the driver's side memory seats as well. It's one important thing. So you have a 2-position memory, and so great to have that as well. The steering wheel is also great in the Q5. I just love it. Has a great 9-3 grip, nice little 10-2 notches, have some metal trim on it here. Now the buttons are mostly plastic, and in some other competitors you'll have a little bit more metal on the wheel, but what I love about this steering wheel is that there are just a few buttons, and that's because the cruise control controls are on a stalk down here instead, which is really rare these days. Most other modern vehicles have just a gazillion buttons on the front of the steering wheel here to, you know, try and cover everything, and this, it's just like, you know, 4 or 5 buttons and that's it. It's wonderfully simple and a lot more digestible than all these other things where you have a full keyboard on your steering wheel basically. So anyway, that's great. Nice paddle shifters on the back of the wheel too, although I'm not sure how many regular Q5 buyers will be using those, but nice to have that. But then yeah, you also have these awesome digital gauges. This is Audi's Virtual Cockpit Plus, and so it's a 12.3-inch display there, and it's really nice. I gotta say, as far as digital gauges go, these are probably the most high-resolution gauges I've ever seen. They're some of the best digital gauges in the business. It just looks like it has like this 3D effect almost because it's just so vivid and crisp with the graphics there, and it just looks super cool too. I love the fonts and things that they've used, and one really cool thing that Audi kind of pioneered and a lot of others have slowly copied, but you have a couple different views. So And it's really cool because if you have the map view and then you shrink all the gauges, you have this huge map display right in your gauge cluster there. And it's a really cool thing to have that, especially if you're trying to figure out where you're going or something. Very handy to have that right in your line of sight. And yeah, I just really love this gauge cluster. It's just very easy to use, and I just love the customizations you have as well. Coming over to the center of the dashboard, another thing that I absolutely love is this new Audi MMI system that they have. It's a touchscreen system now. There's no controllers anymore, thankfully, and it's a very responsive touchscreen, and it just works so well. So it also has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto now, so that's great. You don't have to plug your phone in anymore, and it's a nice large display for the CarPlay too, and it's so much easier to use now, just again being touch. But I mean, everything, you can hear the clicks just when you're playing around with everything. It just all sounds very good. It's always very responsive, and just going through everything. All these tiles, by the way, are customizable. You can drag and drop, so whichever ones you use the most, you can have them closer to you or whatever you want to do. And it just all works really well. Tuning radio stations is really good too. And I really love that, you know, you can have all your presets set in, but especially as someone who doesn't bother programming presets in because I'm just in a different press car every single week, it's really nice how whenever you go to the radio, it immediately brings up your station list, and you can immediately just pull that straight up and go straight through and scroll. It's so much easier than so many other vehicles these days, which makes it so much harder to try and do this kind of stuff. And I mean, switching sources, all that type of stuff is super easy to do. And also, another thing I really love about CarPlay is whenever you do have CarPlay running, you still have this whole little thing on the side here. So if you still want to go, for example, if you're still listening to the radio, but you still want to have maps on your CarPlay, you can still just hop back and forth, and you don't have to go back into a sub-menu. You just have it right there with one touch to go back and forth.
One thing I will say is I think that it works super well, although it does ever so slightly tilt towards the driver. So if you were to sit farther back in the seat, it might be a little bit harder to be controlling the screen and everything, but it still does work. You can still lean forward and everything, and you'd be fine, but it is a little bit more driver centric.
Yeah, and that certainly makes sense, but I do love that it's just so big too. It's a 10.1 inch touchscreen, and it's also standard, by the way, now for 2021. So even if you go for a base model, you still get this awesome screen, so there's no downgrading you to a chintzy little screen when you go for a base model. It's still, everyone gets this nice screen, which I really love that that they're just bundling that in as well. And also in this one, it's optioned in with this Bang & Olufsen stereo, and this is the 3D surround sound stereo, and it is really, really impressive. So it's 19 speakers and 755 watts, and aside from just the numbers of it, it just sounds so good. It has a really good software optimization for doing the surround effect, so it really immerses you and makes you feel like it's almost like a live performance or something, and it does it really well. There's a lot of others that also have similar features, but I would say that this stereo, in my opinion, is one of the top stereos in this segment. I'd say, honestly, to me, it sounds just as good as the Bowers & Wilkins and the Volvos, which I know is a benchmark for a lot of audiophiles. This sounded just as good as that to my ears. Now, I'm not an expert when it comes to, you know, listening to music, but to me, it sounded really, really impressive. I actually think I preferred it slightly over your Burmester and your C300. That's also a very good sounding stereo, but this felt even a little more immersive, and that immersion is what I think a lot of people want these days, especially a 3D branded surround sound stereo, and this really immerses you in your music, and it is a fantastic upgrade. I don't know how a bass Q5 stereo sounds. They don't have one to compare back to back, but if you're into music, definitely pay the extra money for this stereo. I don't think you'll regret it one bit. And coming down to the climate controls, they also are really nice to use. Now here in the Premium Plus, you still only get heated seats. They're not cooled seats. You do have to go up to the Prestige, or you can do an option package on a Premium Plus to get those cooled seats if you'd like. But again, just these switches just feel so nice. The little screens here are a little more high resolution than when you go with some of the competitors, and I also love how when you just approach these and you just start touching these little levers, they immediately start animating, and then you can of course change things with the actual lever itself. It's just a nice little touch, and then you have another little row of simple buttons there beneath that, including one to actually just turn off the screen, which is really nice if you're driving at night and you don't care about having the screen on and in your face. But yeah, and then another thing they do really well here in the Q5 is storage space, I think. So in the doors you have pretty good sized pocket, and it actually goes further back than you'd think. So you see the one normal cutout here, but then if you put your hand all the way back there. It really goes far back into the door, so you can stash all kinds of stuff in there.
Like an umbrella.
Yeah, or maybe. Yeah, you probably actually could fit a small umbrella in there. That's a good point. So a really good amount of space there. And then in the middle here, you have a little slot, which is fairly small, but you could, fit some little knickknacks in there. Probably not a smartphone, but you do have a USB jack there and a power outlet next to your start-stop button. You have this other extra little bin here, which is kind of an odd extra thing, but I'm not complaining. I think that might have been where you had the controller wheel and stuff in the past, and so now it's just an extra bin since you don't need to worry about that anymore. You also have a really nice little volume controller here, which feels great and also will allow you to skip tracks. A little slot here for your key. I also have to just comment real quick on this shifter. It feels so nice. It's another area where they just nail it, where, I mean, just even pushing down or up to change gear just feels really good. It's really nice to rest your hand on because it's just in the perfect position and really nice and soft leather there. And then coming back, you have your two cup holders, and you'll see there's this wireless charging pad, which is also standard for 2021. And the nice thing about this is that you can, slide it forward if you want to have, your cup holders blocked off. You don't care about having your cup holders, or if you want to have the cup holders, you can slide it back and still have a little bit of access to this bin behind it. And it's nice because it's rubberized, so it actually holds your phone in place really well, and it's a good size too. My iPhone 11 Pro fits in there really well. Now, if you had an enormous phone, it might be a tighter squeeze, but I think even the largest phone should fit in there just fine. And that has a USB-C jack, so you have one regular USB and one USB-C. It's nice to have both of those. And so, I mean, I think all of these little bins combined, even though none of them are super huge or super usable, you have a lot of them, and that's a lot more than stuff like a GLC or an X3 where you have maybe like one or two good bins, but you don't have like the 4 or 5 bins scattered all over the place like you do in this. So if you're someone who has a lot of little knickknacks you want to spread all over your interior, I think this might be a little bit better for that kind of stuff. And also this center armrest, by the way, is super soft and plush. I mean, I could lay my head on there and sleep all night. It's so soft, so I really love that too. Backseat space here in the Q5 is also really good, just like you would expect from, one of these compact luxury, SUVs. So I'm 5'9", I'm sitting behind myself. I have about 4 inches of legroom to spare, and a lot of that is thanks to the way they cut out that seat back there so that you have a little bit of extra space. Even if the seat is a little further back, you still always have that cutout space, which is really nice. Have a decent amount of headroom still as well, and it's a really nice large panoramic moonroof too. It's not like a small little thing. It's a really, large 2 pieces of glass there. And so it actually does open up as well, which is something that not all the competitors do. So that's great. And then it's also tri-zone climate control. So when you look forward, you'll see they have their own dedicated air vents. They have their own little climate control controls back there, as well as 2 more USB jacks and another normal power outlet in there. There's also a full down center armrest with 2 little cup holders that pop out in the middle there. And there's also nice large pockets in those doors as well.
And I sat back there with a baby, and I was actually very comfortable back there. I thought there was a decent amount of space. I felt very good. So, yeah.
Yeah, so also speaking of that baby seat, with a rear-facing car seat installed there in the latch system, with the passenger side front seat moved up so that you have enough clearance there, I still, again, being 5'9", shouldn't be too tight of a squeeze or anything if you do have a rear-facing car seat. If you're someone who has some kids, they should fit in there still very well. I mean, of course, this is a family crossover. This is the #1 selling Audi, so of course they're going to make it very family friendly. But just for those curious about how much room exactly, now you know. But then going out to the trunk there in the Q5, it's also very good. It's a power open and close, and I also love how it's not only power close, but you also have a little button there to lock it as you close it. Anyway, the cargo area is nice and wide, pretty long. It's pretty, average for this segment. It's going to be pretty close to what you get in a GLC or an X3 or something like that. Although I will say it's probably a little bit smaller than when you get like a GV80 or something like that. It's still a good amount of space. You'll see whenever you lift up the floor, there's also a spare tire there that you can inflate, so it's nice. You still do have a spare tire here in this vehicle as well. But yeah, that's about all of our thoughts here on the interior of the Q5. Overall, like I said, I was really impressed with it. Yeah, so definitely worth checking out. And of course, if you are curious about owning one of these, I also lived with it for a week and drove it around, so I'll link my driving review above. You can go watch that if you want to hear, what it's like to drive, and I go more into, fuel economy, all that type of stuff as well. But yes, that's all of our thoughts. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching. Huge thanks to Audi for providing us here with this Q5 too. And yeah, we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.